How nice of you to be here today. Our topic today is principle is not bound by precedent, which is another way of saying don't let your expectations of the future be based on what happened in the past. Because the creative power that you use to choose with and create your future isn't limited to what happened in the past. Or another way of saying the same thing is the past isn't always the best guide for making choices about today and the future because the creative power that works through your choices isn't limited to anything that happened in the past. So that's what we teach over here, that there is a creative power for good in the universe, and you can use it to bring more good into your life and into the world in general, unless, of course, you're restricting what it can do for your life by limiting it to what has gone before in your life. Well, here's a great illustration of what I mean. I found a comic strip it's the Pastoral Search Committee. It's a church looking for a new minister. And the committee is sitting, and I guess it's the chairperson talking to the group saying, basically, we're looking for an innovative pastor with a fresh vision who will inspire our church to remain exactly the same. Dr. Ernest Holmes, in this book that we are using all of this here to guide us, Living the Science of Mind, which is a compilation of short essays about spiritual laws and how to use them, he says at the beginning of this essay, well, that's kind of what humanity does, more or less. Limits our future to what has happened in the past. Because as a group, what we seem to be fond of doing is repeating thought patterns that keep us repeating patterns of behavior. Can you think of anything in our nation that is stuck in, that's the way it's always been? And how do we keep it like that? Oh, it's so easy to accept that things cannot change because they haven't changed. That's why some people tell me that's why they don't vote. Oh, according to what we learned last week, I want to reframe that for myself, I want to rethink that. I want to fill my mind's eye up with a new thought, planting a seed in my subconscious, my deeper mind. I want to imagine what happens when good people step up and confidently let their voice be heard and get excited about that, and then vote. Can you think of anything in your own life that is stuck in, that's the way it's always been? And how do you keep it like that? Oh, it's so easy to accept that things cannot change because they haven't changed. That's why some people tell me that they don't trust, or they don't forgive, or they don't meditate, or they don't hope. Perhaps it's because they are more convinced by the precedent set by their past than they are excited about the infinite potential of the creative power of this universe that flows through them. Perhaps this is what Jesus of Nazareth was talking about when he said, with people it's impossible, but with God all things are possible. And indeed, Dr. Ernest Holmes suggests for us to think outside of this is the way it's always been. We're going to need to use that greater power, the one that is greater than we are, and directing it through the choices we make in mind to plant new seeds in our deeper mind, which we learned last week, then immediately goes about the task of wrapping itself around our life to manifest that which we are fond of thinking. And he says to do this, we're going to need a certain amount of adventure. We're going to need a certain imagination and creativity to bring that into play. We're going to have to be enthusiastic and have a feeling of excitement and acceptance. Otherwise, we'll let the status quo, the way things have always been, well, energetically, it just drags us down. And if the thoughts that we are persistently and repeatedly thinking and planting into our deeper mind go something like this, it's always been this way. Nothing ever changes. It's been done before. I've already tried that. Well, then we might as well expect things to stay the same. Not because the creative power of the universe is limited, but because we are using it in a limiting way. And this can be a problem if I don't even know that I'm doing it. Yes. You and I may not even know that the conditioning we received as infants from our family of origin or the adults around us was setting a trajectory for our lives. And we might discover, if we look closely, that we've been reliving what our family of origin or the adults around us taught us is real. Now, I grew up in South Africa during the apartheid years, That's the time when the whites in South Africa considered themselves to be a superior race. And they taught that to their children. Generation after generation after generation. And many people grew up in that education accepting that that was normal from childhood, from infancy. Oh, and it took a radical change of mind to break the pattern of hundreds of years of thinking. And when that pattern was broken, I think many people woke up and wondered if it could have been broken at any earlier time. Because, it wasn't changed by force. It was changed by mind, with the support of the international community saying, that is not right. That's not normal. Well, let me read to you a parable. I intended it to be uplifting, but it's perhaps not the most cheerful story. The parable of 5 monkeys. 5 monkeys were placed in a cage for observation. Inside the cage, a banana hung on a string just above a set of stairs leading to it. Before long, one of the monkeys went up the stairs and started to climb towards the banana to retrieve it. As soon as the monkey started up the stairs, the other 4 monkeys were sprayed with ice-cold water. It wasn't long before all the monkeys would physically prevent any other monkey from climbing up the stairs. Then at some point, the ice-cold water was stopped and was taken away and shut off. Then 1 monkey was removed from the cage and replaced with a new monkey. When the newcomer became curious about the stairs and the banana, the other monkeys attacked him as usual. When the newcomer tried again, he was assaulted again, and soon he learned not to approach the stairs. Then another of the original 5 monkeys was removed and replaced with a new one, and as soon as the newcomer went to the stairs, the monkeys attacked him, including the previous newcomer. Then a 3rd original monkey was replaced, and a 4th, and a 5th, and every time the newest monkey tried to climb the stairs, he was attacked. Then at some point, there were no original monkeys left in that cage. And the monkeys had no idea why they were not permitted to climb the stairs, or why they were attacking each other when any one of them went to get a banana. None had ever been sprayed with ice-cold water. Nevertheless, no monkey ever again approached the stairs. Why not? Because as far as they knew, that's the way it always had been. I guess we could say the new monkeys were carrying the baggage of their predecessors, their ancestors. Well, it brings the question to light, what baggage are you carrying around from your predecessors or ancestors? I might want to pay attention to that, considering where I come from. and how I was raised. Because likely the way we were raised and the ideas that we were subjected to as normal are possibly affecting the way we see life today and even how we plan for the future, unless we wake up to them and see the patterns. And don't you know, you and I can expect some pushback from the other monkeys if we question the status quo? I'll give you a very good example of that. Take, for example, public and religious holidays. Like Memorial Day this Monday on May 28th, 2018. Or Thanksgiving Day, which is coming up any moment now, soon enough. Or Christmas, there it is, there it's coming for that matter. Do you know that we have habits and customs on these days that have nothing to do with the original holiday's intention? And many, many people who celebrate it have no idea why it is that we do what we do. But mind you, no one is permitted to question the status quo. You don't believe me? Try asking why Christmas is celebrated the way it is. You might be attacked by monkeys if you do. Don't ask what the original intent of the holiday is. Don't ask why all of these celebrations are characterized by shopping. You could disturb the monkeys. Oh. Sometimes we get so used to the weight of carrying around our predecessors' luggage that we don't even know that we're dragging it around, even though we may find ourselves defending it, like the monkeys who attack but don't know why. They got used to the behavior of their predecessors. They accepted it as normal. And so then it shapes their actions today and their choices for tomorrow. Oh, it's so easy to do that. Like becoming used to school shootings. Accepting that is normal for the United States of America. That's normal. Oh, no. No, we learned last week, no. Reframe and rethink. I may not know what to do about it, but I will not accept that as normal. I may not know what to do about it, but I cannot be made to accept it as normal. I may not know what to do about that, but there is a power within me that does know, and I am to use that power to plant a seed of radical newness in my deeper mind about school safety, and I will not allow myself to be lulled into thinking that violence is the pathway to freedom and economic security, even if it has always been that way, because principle is not bound by precedent. I mean, if I want to use the past, I could say, for example, hey, if the apartheid regime can come to an end, then the culture of violence in schools can too. I don't need to know how just yet. I know that I have to be clear on the why. And then the creative power of the universe, if I let it work through me, will produce the pathway. And remember what Dr. Holmes said. He suggests to think outside of how things have always been. We're going to need a certain amount of imagination, creativity, because to break through those old patterns, we've got to have a sense of, well, excitement and possibility. We have to lift ourselves up out of the average to think about the new, to break through the way things have always been. And one creative way of doing that is to ask ourselves, well, who would I be in this life if I were not weighed down by the past? If I were not carrying the weight of the past around with me, who might I be? How might I show up? And you know, fair enough, some person might say, well, I don't know. Well, it's true, because you may never have met yourself in that liberated form. Yet that's where the imagination comes in. That's where the creativity comes in and the excitement. It's called pushing back into the possibilities. Holmes said, and this time it's Sherlock Holmes. Yes, Sherlock Holmes said in The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night, he said, the dog did nothing in the night. That was the curious incident. You see, he knew more about what was going on by what didn't happen. And that's a clue. Maybe we can too. Maybe we can learn something about this life from observing what is not happening. For example, if we're not waking up every morning and shouting, "This is the day the Lord hath made." If we are not looking into everybody's eyes and going, "Oh my, here's another perfect expression of the living universe." If we are not saying to ourselves so often that it is normal, "Oh, there's a powerful good in the universe and it flows through me and I'm Spirit's channel for the expression of great, new, wonderful, yet to be glories," then we might rightly conclude that we have either accepted things as being the way they always have been without any hope for change, or maybe we're carrying so much luggage that it's keeping us stuck in those ways and we don't realize we're doing it. But once you start noticing that it's happening, don't beat yourself up. If you find yourself being guilty of dragging around the past, there's a kind of good news in that. Remember, reframe and rethink. Last week, and I do that. This is what I would say to myself. Oh, wow. I have uncovered further evidence of how powerful the creative nature of my thinking is, and now I am ready to use it in a different, new way. I would say that to myself, because that's what you do. That's what you do. You start talking to yourself. That's how you plant new direction in your deeper mind. When you want to start planting new ideas, when you want to get into new patterns, and you want to drop old patterns, when you want to drop the past and let go of things that are preventing you from moving forward, you start talking to yourself in ways that remind you that there is a powerful good in the universe, in ways that can start reframing for you what is going on, in ways that give you hope and confidence. That's what you do. You start making a sincere effort to notice the patterns that are in there, and then neutralize them by announcing statements of a higher truth. For example, here are some thought patterns that can keep a person stuck in the past. This is how it's always been. Now, I'm not accusing you, but you may want to pay attention to some of these. For example, this kind of thinking, where you focus only on the problem. That's when you stub your toe in the morning on a piece of furniture, and then you carry the pain of that into every single thing in the day thereafter. So much so that you don't even notice that your neighbor smiled at you, that you're in a beautiful county, that you're breathing fresh air. In other words, you completely ignore everything, even the positive things in your life, in favor of that pain. You don't let the positive in. You don't let anything good shape your experience. And if you take it to the extreme, this shows up as mentally rehearsing the worst case scenarios. And if you should find yourself focusing on the problems of the world, you might want to say to yourself something like this, and won't you read it with me? There is something within me that is greater than anything that has ever happened to me. There is a powerful good in me, greater than I am, and I'm using it for the benefit of all. Or as this kind of thinking is typically dangerous, generalizing. That's when you're in a relationship and the other person cheats. And so now you think everyone else is a cheat. They kind of look like they are. Might as well be careful. Never quite ever let them in. They're all the same. Now, if you find yourself generalizing, you might want to interrupt that tendency and say to yourself something like this with me. There is something within me that is greater than anything that has ever happened to me. There is a power for good in me, greater than I am, and I am using it for the benefit of all. Or how about this tendency of thought? Oh, taking things personally. That shows up as having a too narrow perspective, or saying it less politely, thinking that the whole world revolves around you, and that can get in the way of seeing the bigger picture. And in the bigger picture is other people's lives, their trials and tribulations, the things that they are struggling with, as well as all of the possibilities that have not yet been realized by you. And it can get in the way of you considering those other possibilities. There's a darker side of this too. Not taking things personally enough. Yeah, the other extreme. That's when you avoid taking any responsibility for the way you show up. That's when you hold other people responsible for how you feel and how you act and what you do. That's when you refuse to consider the consequences of keeping on the same path that you've always been on, because that's the way it's always been and that's who I am. Oh, if you notice such a trend, you might want to say to yourself, there is something within me that is greater than anything that has ever happened to me. There is a power for good in me, greater than I am, and I'm using it.